Nice chairs.
Good afternoon. I'm Richard Morco, and this is the Long Hill Report. And just to mention a little housekeeping details, since the last time we spoke, the Sturbridge Times magazine, which became the greatest Sturbridge town and country living magazine, has gone to magazine heaven thanks to COVID-19. So I do not have a writing place, but if you email me, I can lead you to where I do still write. But anyway, that out of the way, I'm Richard Morco, as I said. Today we have as guests Michelle and Wally Connor, who are known originally for Socks for Siberia and now S.O.N.G, or Supporting Orphans nationally and globally. I first met them to write about Socks for Siberia several years ago for the Sturbridge Times magazine. And it's a very moving story, and one I think you'll be interested to hear. So to talk about first Socks for Siberia, and then Supporting Orphans nationally and globally, is Wally and Michelle Connor.
Well, thank you, Richard, for having us on.
Tell us about the beginning.
Well, the beginning goes back to 1989. I traveled to a town in Siberia called Abakan with my school group from Valley View School in North Brookfield. And our tour guide at that time was a woman named Natasha, who had a son named Sergey, who was 16 years old. And we traveled all around, and she was our tour guide. And then about 6 months later, we sponsored him and Sergey and his school group to come to North Brookfield and spend 3 weeks with us. So him and his friend Costa stayed with us for 3 weeks, and they traveled around, all around Northeast and whatnot. They stayed at our house. So in 1995, when Sergey graduated from college in Russia, got his bachelor's degree, we sponsored him to come here to get his master's degree in English as a second language at UMass Boston. So he ended up living with us for 2 years and commuting to his classes 3 times a week. And then when it was time, once he got his degree and it was time for him to go back, his family invited us to tour the country and visit with them as a sign of gratitude for taking care of their son for 2 years. And while we were there on that trip, his girlfriend, Tatiana, accepted his proposal for marriage. So the following year, in 1998, we had to go to, 1999 actually, we had to go to the wedding. And it was on that trip that we walked by our first orphanage. And we had actually taken a walk with our friend. And we went by this building, and kids were outside, poorly dressed, hitting rocks at each other with sticks. And we asked her what this place was, and she said it was a Dietsky Dom, which means orphanage in Russia. And at that time, the economic situation in Russia was horrible, mainly because of the fall of communism in 1991. The ruble lost all its value, and the country was in turmoil. So there was no money for kids to have good clothes or have recreational equipment. It was all hand-me-down clothes, including underwear. And we found that unacceptable. So at that point, we decided that we were going to do something. And that's how Socks for Siberia started.
I remember when I was interviewing you several years ago about the origin, and you sounded like you were very emotional over there when you saw that.
Yeah, extremely. Because the kids, some of these children, it was probably in the 90s that day, it was in August, and some of them had on heavy clothes and boots, and some of them had on broken flip-flops and things, and not a toy to be seen. And, you know, like Wally said, they were playing stickball, but with a rock and a branch of a tree. And it was, when he tells the story, he says, you know, we didn't exactly see the beam of light come down and shine on us and hear the angels sing, but it was one of those moments that we just looked at one another and said, all right, we have to do something.
Yeah, it was obvious that we were destined to be there, and we decided that it was a sign and we were going to do something, so that was the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Siberia has a reputation, you know. I mean, from Russian novels, as the penal colony of the Tsars.
Sure.
Did it have that kind of feeling as sort of a out of their way place, or what's it?
Well,
Actually, some parts, you would still see the remnants of old Russia with old buildings and whatnot, but primarily where Abakan is and the surrounding area is beautiful.
yeah.
It's south central Siberia. It's not northern Siberia. Northern Siberia is permafrost, permafrozen. It's only about 200 kilometers north of Mongolia, actually. And the steppe landscape and the taiga forests are beautiful. It's really quite the area, and the people we got to know, very down to earth, very warm, very welcoming. It's not like you see and hear on TV. In the summertime, it gets warm there. It will get 90, 95 degrees in June, but it'll get 50 below in December as well.
That's a little colder than, say, Charlton or Sturbridge or the Brookfields. You know.
Quite.
Yeah, we complain, and we love to complain about our winter, but we don't really
know
what
nothing.
No, it's,
So he came home, and tell us how you got the organization going.
well, Michelle organized some people to get together and collect socks, underwear, pajamas, nightgowns, and send them off to Siberia by mail, by packages through the Postal Service. And the Girl Scouts that were helping her from Brookfield actually came up with the name, you know, you should call yourself Socks for Siberia. You're sending these
Sending
kids
socks collecting socks for Siberia. The
So
first
that was
thing,
where the name came from.
yeah, the first thing that we actually did was as soon as we got home, there was, again, God bless those Girl Scouts. A Girl Scout leader and her troop helped, and there were about 90 kids in the orphanage, and they made 90 little Christmas stockings out of felt, sewed them on the sewing machine, decorated them, and they collected candy canes and pencils, and Dr. Tom Cahill from West Brookfield donated toothbrushes and little sample toothpastes and whatever those kind of things that we could collect. We filled them up and took them to the post office and shipped them off. This was back when shipping things wasn't anywhere near as expensive as it is now. Yeah, and all people said, oh, you're wasting your time, it's never going to get there, someone will steal it. I said, well, I had my hand on the boxes driving to the post office saying, please let them get where they're supposed to be, you know, and every box made it, and we've never lost anything in shipping that we've sent there.
That's excellent,
Yeah.
because you do hear the horror stories,
Yeah,
but that is excellent to
Yeah.
hear.
yeah.
Now, Socks for Siberia was going for a long time. We knew it as Socks for Siberia. Did you work with any other, did you expand the orphanage thing in Russia and do other orphanages as well?
Yeah, there was a number of orphanages. You know, we would hear about one. You know, this specific one was kids of all ages, from maybe like 4 or 5. Then we found out about another one for younger children. Then there was a home for children with special needs. A lot of the orphans that are in the orphanages in Russia, and a lot of the ones who have been adopted by people here, have kind of secret special needs where they say, oh, you know, he has a little heart defect, but you find out he has Fragile X syndrome, which is a whole nother ball of wax. And so it's, you know, those were the places. There were 4 or 5 over the course of time, I think.
Well, there was actually, in that area, there was like 5 different facilities we worked with. But we ended up branching out to other facilities in other regions as well.
Yeah.
So actually worked in, you know, they have regions there that are similar to like New England. They're not states, but they're actually called regions. So we've actually worked in 4 different regions in 10 different facilities
over the years.
up until, you know, the present time. We're still working with a few. Actually, in 2005, 2006, the government started a foster care program, which did not exist prior to that time. And they actually took money that they had made selling oil and developed the first foster care program in their history. Unfortunately, in the beginning, When people found out they could get X amount of rubles per month per child, a lot of people just wanted 10 children, but just for the money. And of course, the system didn't work very well. But as time has gone on, they've really done a good job and solidified the program. And when we started in this region of Hakasia, there were 33 orphanages in 1999, and now there's 5. So things are much better. More children are in with foster families.
Which leads me to kind of ask the question, the origin of the, well, I became an orphan in my 50s when my father died. So, but most of us in this country did, like, all grew up in families, whatever you want to say. What is the origin of that? It sounds like it was a vast problem of children becoming orphans.
Yeah.
What was
Tuberculosis was a big thing. A lot of victims of tuberculosis, and alcoholism is just rampant.
the parents became,
right. Yeah.
and they died, or they became incapacitated, and the children.
Yeah, very few of the children in the orphanages that we worked with were what we would look at as a complete orphan, meaning both parents are either dead or missing. A lot of the children had one parent who maybe was in jail because of drug abuse or whatever. Another parent, or another situation, a parent was in a hospital, unable to care for the child, so the child ended up in the orphanage. And actually, some of the local crisis intervention systems actually took children out of certain homes because they weren't being cared for properly. And some parents just couldn't afford it. They might have 4 children, and they can only afford to feed one properly or take care of one properly, and they gave up the other 3, and they ended up in institution.
Yeah.
So that's very common.
Yeah, we were there at times when, they would usually have some sort of a reception when we would come. And I remember very clearly this one woman with the child who was still living at home coming in to pick up the 2 girls who were in the orphanage to take them home for a visit. That.
So it's not the Dickensian situation.
Right.
Well, I mean, it could be described as Dickensian for the situation, but it's not like a Dickens novel where the parents are completely gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I take it that the situation is because you mentioned there are a lot less orphanages now. I take it the system or the situation has changed, and more parents are able to take care of it. It's not the destitution of the Yeltsin years.
Right. The late 90s, the economic crisis prevented anything extra for these children. That's why we got started. But as time has gone on, things have improved. The government's done more over time. The numbers have diminished because of actually adoptions in other countries, even though we're forbidden to adopt because of a political strife between Moscow and Washington some years back, and that continues to this day. But we still support a couple of the programs there and a couple of the facilities there with annual Christmas parties and Christmas gifts, which they still would not have if we didn't provide that support. So once it got to 2017, 2018, and we started seeing more need in other countries around the world, that led us to reorganize from S.O.N.G for Siberia, which we were a 501c3 organization, to present-day S.O.N.G, supporting orphans nationally and globally, to allow us to be able to work in other countries where children were more in need.
Well, that you've certainly, done a lot of work in Siberia, in the former Soviet Union, that things have gotten better there. We can only hope that your organization is going to be helping to improve the rest of the world, and it improves like it did in Siberia. But you should tell the story of what's happening and where you are now, and how the organization is building.
Well, for 20 years, we had our office as our kitchen table. So once COVID hit, or actually just before COVID hit, we had started working in a few other countries, but we had also met someone who helped us get our first office, which is now on 5 North Street in Ware, Massachusetts, above Hannah Devine's restaurant. So we were finally able to get our kitchen table back and our home back, and we have a central location where we can do all our work, and we work a lot more efficiently and get a lot more done. So that all kind of transpired at the same time. Once we did the reorganization, we had, through mutual acquaintances, started working in Pakistan, Uganda, South Africa. We're actually doing some work in the Philippines as well. And we just started, potentially starting a new program in Zanzibar, which is off the coast of Africa, part of Tanzania, the country of Tanzania.
So how is it moving along here? What are we doing? What's the
Well,
next move?
When we first started, all the primary needs of all these places were the same: food, clean water, education. A lot of these countries, what happened in, well, just for example, in South Africa, in Dominionville, many years ago, migrant workers came in, which is similar to happen in other countries, including our own, from other countries to work in the mines. So they settled there, they started families there, they worked for many generations in these mines, and a company came along and bought this one big mine near Dominionville and closed it. So that, all of a sudden, many people were right out of work. Now a lot of these migrant workers, they don't have benefits because they're not citizens of South Africa, so parents, fathers would, primarily the fathers, would go to other places looking for work. They would not either, maybe they didn't find any work, or they got, something happened to them or whatever, resulting in some children being left orphaned. So through an acquaintance in our church, we met this priest who started on his own mission to help support these orphan children. So that's how we started working there with, like, again, primarily food, medicine, and help with educational material, because these kids can't go to school without paying school fees and having the right supplies and whatnot. So that's the kind of work we're doing there. Mm-hmm. Very similar situation in Pakistan. I traveled there twice. The poverty is just exceptional amongst the Christians in these remote villages. Pakistan is primarily Muslim. It's an Islamic state. Only 1.5% of the population is Christian. But these Christians, this is their homeland. This is where they've lived for many generations. And they want to continue, but they really don't have they're treated as third-rate citizens. And a lot of them didn't get the opportunity for education. And when there's no opportunity for education, there's really just a bleak future. So it's what we're trying to focus on right now.
Well, it's all to the good. Philippines, what's...
Well, Michelle, I'll let you tell that story.
The place in the Philippines is a chosen children's village. And a woman that I worked with, I recently retired, and she and her husband had adopted 2 girls from that village. And so she had let us know that there was a volcano that erupted, and this place was trying to be self-sufficient, so they were growing their own vegetables and trying to raise as much of their food as they could. And of course the volcanic ash just decimated everything, and they had to be evacuated, and they had no water, and so we helped them to restore their clean water supply.
Yeah, provide clean water and food, because where they went to, there wasn't any, so it was kind of like an immediate relief assistance, and we're kind of paying attention to what's going on with them now and continue to support them when they need it. So.
You mentioned Zanzibar. My cousin, first cousin, actually spent a couple of years there, at least a couple, with his wife. And she was working on a doctorate, and he was watching the kids as they worked for 2 years. And that seemed like it would probably have problems.
Yep. The way that just came about is our head, we're all a volunteer organization, by the way. All the money we raise goes to help the children. But our head program director in Siberia, S.O.N.G, who and his family and friends do all our work on the ground when we're not there, he went to Zanzibar for a vacation. It was one of the few nice places you could go climate-wise for a beach vacation while COVID was going on. And he's the one that discovered these children who were orphaned and in need of some help with clothing and educational materials so they could get back into school. So that's how that got started. That was just recently too. So
He left the resort. You know, they were staying in a resort, and he wanted to see what was on the other side of the wall.
Well, it's sort of like those all-inclusive places.
Yeah.
right.
Are the children mostly Christian or Muslim?
No, they're mostly Muslim in Zanzibar. Yeah. Yeah, and the
would
support we've provided so far was just kind of an immediate need for the clothing and some food and educational fees and materials. It's pretty interesting. It's the same problem in all
everywhere.
these places pretty much. But for us to continue working there, we would need to do a site visit and establish a group of volunteers to do the work there. Because we like to get the communities involved. Everywhere we're working, we've found that local people want to help the kids as well. And we believe that everyone's called to serve. The other thing that we do in the areas we work in is we establish relationships with local vendors in the marketplaces. They want to help the children as well. So we end up being able to get, for example, 12 coats for the cost of 2 coats here and shipping them. So the money that we do raise goes that much further by, going along with this philosophy that we've had since we started doing this, and that's to get local communities and people involved everywhere we're working.
All to the good. Now, here, like I know that you've recently, your fundraiser with the raffle is over. What are you guys doing here in the next, say, year or so?
Well, we've got some dates planned for some, outdoor festivals like we traditionally do. We've had 2 calendar raffles in the past 6 months, both very successful, both with people donating a lot of their winnings back. So, we've had to change the way we're fundraising because of COVID. We've gotten more and more supporters come on board and actually started with monthly donations. And we've also started individual sponsorship programs. We have 2 couples from West Brookfield who have signed on to support an orphan child in a critical situation in one of these places that we're working in. So we're pretty excited about that we finally got this individual sponsorship program off the ground that we've been wanting to do for years. So.
It's very exciting, yeah.
And you're hoping possibly to do something in September?
Yeah, we've got a date planned at Brimfield Winery on Route 20 in Brimfield, and again, depending on the restrictions and whatnot, we're hoping that enough restrictions will be lifted that we can get people to come and enjoy some music and have some good raffles and have some fun. And
so everybody out there, get your shots so you can go out and have a glass of wine at the winery and listen to some music and support orphans. Okay, you're not talking too much here.
oh, I talk too much, that's why.
No, I was not. No.
I don't want to stumble over it.
I want, you can be we want to hear from you, this young lady here. So tell us, you tell us something about what's happening.
Well, boy, it's
The
been...
shop.
We
Come
have...
on.
Okay, yes, talk
Yeah,
about the
we
shop,
have,
that'd be great.
We have as well as the office in Ware, we have a resale store, And it's a nice little shop, and it has all sorts of things from Russian and Pakistani handcrafts and clothing and fabrics to things that are on consignment, kitchen wares, kitchen gadgets, beautiful paintings, photographs, books, shoes, you name it, jewelry, lots of different things, and all at really good prices. Some of the things are brand new still with the tags. Vera Bradley purses that still have the tags on them that are a fraction of what, what their original price is. And all of that money goes to helping the kids.
And next time I need a purse, I will definitely.
Well, Mother's Day's coming, you never know.
Yeah, okay. Now, again, the location, the address.
It's 5 North Street in Ware.
So if you're coming from east of Ware, and you go Route 9,
Route 9, yep.
yeah, you'll be going along.
We're right on the corner of...
Right on the corner, you'll see on the right,
Yep.
Hannah Devine's.
Yep, Hannah Devine's
And
Restaurant, great
upstairs,
place.
yeah, so you just got to turn the corner a little
Yep.
and on North Street.
Yep, and they can look for our sidewalk signs. Anytime we're open, our sidewalk signs are out, so people know we're open that way.
And what are the hours?
We haven't got regular hours right now because of COVID, but we've been opening usually on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. And what we do is we always post the time so that on our website and on our Facebook page, we put a post first thing in the morning or the night before to let people know what time we'll be open. And we'll take appointments as well for people. Sometimes some might be someone who only has time on a Tuesday, and we're glad to take a ride. It's 10 minutes from our house, so I have no problem putting my garden tools down and taking a ride over and showing someone around. And we also have some things posted. We have pictures of a lot of the items on the website. We're working on putting together a virtual store as well to be able to sell things from the website and the Facebook page too.
I assume that the virtual, you can send things out,
Yep.
but you can also do
Send
probably a
things or
grab
pick
and
up.
go too.
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Yep.
That's
In fact,
good.
we had at Christmas time, we did a virtual shopping trip, and we had a woman from Canada who purchased like $85 worth of Christmas doodads and sent her a nice box from.
No matter where you are in this world,
That's right.
S.O.N.G. can find you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do not have to deny yourself for anything. So we need some more. We need some more information. Okay, so it's probably going to be on the screen, but your website is.
The website is supportingorphans.org.
Okay,
That's it.
Supporting Orphans. That's it. And you have a Facebook as well.
Yep, and that is, you would look up go on to Facebook and look up Supporting Orphans. And it will
Nationally
come
and globally, yep.
Nationally and
Nationally
globally will
and
come
globally.
up, yep.
And you also have a email address for people.
Yep,
And
that's info, I-N-F-O, at supportingorphans.org, O-R-G.
Excellent. So you have no excuse for not getting in touch with the same old song.
yes, well,
That's why the last article I wrote, I think I titled "It's the Same Old Song,"
Yep.
even though it was no longer the
Right.
name was no longer.
right.
Yep, great title.
And the first article that you wrote about us was always my favorite article that's been written, and that was where you advised people at the end, next time you see something that needs to be done, don't walk away.
It's gratifying that you say that. It really means a lot. I loved writing articles in the magazine. Sometimes it was a lot of intellectual effort, and we have some deficiencies there. But to write about something like that was quite a pleasure. I'm sorry that you didn't think the second article was as good. I'm kidding, folks. I'm kidding. So, everybody, be on the lookout. It won't be long. You get to September, and you'll be able to have a great time
Yep.
down at Brimfield, and you won't have to buy any antiques. Or you might have to
You
buy
might,
some
you
antiques.
never know.
Who knows? But it's very, very, very grateful that you could come and speak to people.
We're grateful that you invited us.
And this is very, very important to do. And the information should be on the screen, so
Super.
we hope to hear from you.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Richard. It's been a pleasure.
It has.